Hey y'all, I'm Jerdy, and in this video, we're going to go over the Grand Crusader Caldoran encounter in the Scarlet Enclave raid in Season of Discovery. Grand Crusader Caldoran, I think it's Caldoran actually. Grand Crusader Caldoran is the final encounter in the Scarlet Enclave raid and potentially all of Season of Discovery, and will prove to be a challenge for most guilds. Now, the reason why it's such a challenge is because people do not prepare beforehand. I have been to a number of different runs, and they will steamroll the first 7 bosses, and then they get to Caldoran for the first time, and they have no idea how to do it. By the time I'm making this video, it's already week 5 or 6, I'm not too sure actually, but it's enough weeks now to where there's no excuse for people not to know this encounter. So if you're watching this guide, you are not a part of the problem, and I'm sure your guild or raid team thanks you. But with that being said, let's get on with the actual video. Grand Crusader Caldoran has 2 phases, each with an Ashbringer phase. Phase 1 is an ad management encounter that lasts until Caldoran reaches 55%, and the Ashbringer phase is a heal check while burning it down to 45%. Phase 2 is essentially phase 1, but much easier, and the final Ashbringer phase is a DPS check while surviving mechanics from past encounters. A general consensus is that if you get to phase 2 with enough of your raid alive, you will defeat the encounter. Let's go over phase 1 first. This encounter requires at least 2 tanks, but for safety purposes, 3 is very helpful. If you have a really strong tank combo and your DPS is a little low, then you can run 2 tanks here. But ideally you have 1 tank on the boss and 1 to 2 tank on the ads that will spawn on the left and right side of the room. I would also recommend not going under 4 healers, as Caldoran does serious damage to the tank and there is massive raid-wide damage in the first Ashbringer phase. Caldoran has 7 mechanics in this phase: Blade of Malice, Wake of Ashes, Execution Sentence, Blinding Flare, Divine Conflagration, Summoning Ads, and Reclamation. Let's go over the latter 3 as they apply to the entire raid. Blinding Flare is a 3-second cast casted every 30 seconds that blinds all players that are facing Caldoran when casted. Everyone, including the tank, should not get hit by this. He does not attack during this cast, so it is safe for the tank to turn around without getting hit. Healers should be turned around the entire time, as they do not need to face their targets to heal. 2 ads will be summoned on each side of the room, totaling 4 per summon. This will keep occurring throughout all of phase 1. The ads can be Ravagers, Maguses, or Martyrs. Ravagers are hard-hitting 2-hand warriors that cannot hit anybody but the tanks, or they will one-shot them. They need to be picked up immediately. Maguses need to be interrupted, and Martyrs are the main focus of this encounter, as they will permanently try to cast Divine Offering, a very strong 10-second casted heal to Caldoran until they are killed. This is why we opt for 2 ad tanks here, as ads spawn on both sides of the room at the same time, which can be a little challenging for 1 tank to pick up all 4 before they get to the raid. Reclamation is a mass res and heal casted by Caldoran that will res all killed ads and fully heal all ads that are still alive. He will cast his first one at 1 minute and 45 seconds and the second one 2 minutes later. Divine Conflagration is a 5-second debuff put on a random player, typically any of the 3 to 5 farthest players from Caldoran. Although this is not confirmed, it seems to be the case. When this timer goes off, it will drop a giant pool of fire on the ground, shown by a circle placed on the target. Any enemy ads that are killed in this fire, or any corpses that are in the fire, will be turned into ash and unable to resurrect during Reclamation. An ad does not need to die in the fire. As long as the fire was placed on its corpse, it will not be able to res. You'll know this when that ad turns into a pile of ash. This is the main mechanic of phase 1 and what holds a lot of guilds back from progressing. The 3 tank buster abilities are Blade of Malice, Wake of Ashes, and Execution Sentence. All of these abilities are percentage-based attacks, meaning most external and internal damage reduction cooldowns are ineffective here. Blades of Malice is 60%, Wake of Ashes 30%, and Execution Sentence 90%. Execution Sentence also stuns the target for 3 seconds. Let's go over positioning first of this encounter before we break it down step by step. You will tank Caldoran where he's facing. You can bring him down a little bit closer towards the staircase, but not by much. All of your ranged and melee DPS should be behind Caldoran, right by the altar. minus your hunters. Your hunters and your other smartest ranged DPS will be behind the altar so they can bait getting divine conflagration. Your healers have two spots they can be in. They can either be tucked into the pillars to your left and right, or they can be on top of your DPS in the middle. The reason we want to put them there is because when the adds get summoned, they will have threat on your healers first. If the adds are going behind the pillars, your healers are positioned wrong. We don't want this because it involves a lot more movement from your tanks. You want the adds to go straight forward here so your tanks can pick them up. When a ranged DPS gets divine conflagration, it will stop everything they're doing and get to these two spots right here. There's a system for every 3 fire drops. The first fire either goes on the left or right, the next one will go on the opposite side it didn't go on, and the third one is a throwaway. This only works if you're doing each fire correctly. If you mess one up, that one has to go in the spot it was supposed to go in beforehand. So now let's break down phase 1. On pull, your tank will want to use all their offensive cooldowns to ensure threat on Caldoran. Everybody else needs to make sure they get into their proper position ASAP. All heals be focused on the tank as there is no raid-wide damage going out. After the first blind goes out, the first wave of adds and divine conflagration will go out as well. Keep an eye out for which adds you get. If you see Ravagers, make sure you pick those up first so they don't one-shot any of your raid members. Maguses need to be kicked to get in position correctly. The martyrs will keep casting their divine offering until they're killed. If you kick them or stun them, it'll only reset the cast. However, a mage's polymorph will actually stop them from casting for a long time, even when the sheep breaks. Your mage's main priority on this encounter is sheeping the martyrs to stop the cast from going out. Once you have the fires positioned in the right spot, it's now a matter of your raid managing their DPS on the adds versus Caldoran. For tanks, the main tank buster you have to worry about is Execution Sentence. When this is casted, you will have 8 seconds before the stun and damage goes off. There are only a couple of things that will actually mitigate damage, as most DRs do not work because it is percentage based. Shields like Paladin's Divine Light or Priest's Power Word Shield can absorb some of this damage. The Paladin Rune, Hand of Sack, not the Blessing ability, will reduce damage, but the strongest ability for this mechanic will be a Heal Mage's Rewind Time, as it completely negates the damage you take from it as soon as it goes off. Once your raid team knows where to put fires and can manage DPS on the adds versus the boss, you just need to get Caldoran down to 55% to start the Ashbringer phase. Depending on the DPS and size of your raid, you can actually focus more on the boss and just natural cleave the adds down and not worry about dropping fires in the right spot. If you can get Caldoran to 55% before the second reclamation at 3 minutes and 45 seconds, then you don't need to really worry about the fires. Now with the Ashbringer phase, you want to make sure all of your healers are alive, as this is massive raid-wide damage. Save your battle reses for your tanks or your healers for this phase. Adds will still be summoned. They need to be picked up by your tanks. Everyone should ignore the adds and only focus on the Ashbringer, however, as the adds will run away once the Ashbringer hits 45%. Raid-wide cooldowns like Rallying Cry, Barrier, personal health potions, or warlock cookies can save you during this part. Priest's Psychic Scream, Warrior's Intimidating Shout, stuns, shockwave, anything to stop the adds is also very helpful for this fight, as you just want to make sure that you're getting the Ashbringer down without anybody in your raid dying. Once the Ashbringer hits 45%, players will be stunned and Caldoran will begin casting Dying Light. Players will have 15 seconds after the stun to go back to the entrance to be saved by Archmage Angela Dos Santos and her barrier. Once Dying Light goes out, players will be stunned again for some RP, and after the RP is over, players will run back to where Caldoran was to take the portal to start phase 2. Be careful for falling debris, as it will stun you on your way out. Phase 2 is just like Phase 1, except Caldoran gets a few more abilities to do on the tank, as if he didn't have enough already. He now has Judge Unworthy, a 2-second stun, and Quietus, which is not percentage-based damage, so this can be reduced through personal cooldowns or external cooldowns. There are adds in this phase, but there are only a group of 5 Scarlet Hollow NPCs that are summoned every few minutes through a new ability, Cessation. When Caldoran casts this, the 5 adds will be summoned and need to be tanked away from the boss, as when they die, they'll drop purple pools in the ground that deal damage. Other than that, there's nothing else to this phase, so if your healers and tanks are strong and able to keep each other alive through all the tank buster abilities, you will get to the final Ashbringer phase with ease. The second Ashbringer phase is not a heal check like the first one was, but rather a DPS check. Players will have 1 minute to burn the Ashbringer down before it casts a one-shot on the entire raid. As you're trying to burn down the Ashbringer a second time, it will try to stop you by summoning past bosses and mini-bosses to use their mechanics on you. The most notable boss mechanics will be Beatrix's Stock Break and Herod's Blades of Light. The most notable mini-boss mechanic will be the ad that chases you around and kills you in 1 to 2 hits. It slow walks though, so you should have plenty of time to not die from this. There are some other mechanics such as Fan of Knives or this spinning Fire Mage or Alexa the Beastlord casting a root, but the fire damage is almost non-existent and the root is always casted in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if that's a bug or if it's just totally random, but you can ignore this for now. Once you burn the Ashbringer down, you will finish off the last 10% of Caldoran, and once you do that, congratulations, you have beaten Season of Discovery. For tanks, if you are the main tank on Caldoran, remember that all of his abilities minus Quietus are percentage-based attacks, so defensives won't mitigate any damage from them. Defensives are helpful for the melees, however, that happen before and after that ability goes out. All of Caldoran's melees are not physical, so Barkskin is actually completely useless throughout this entire encounter. Greater Holy Protection Potions and Frozen Runes will help mitigate some major damage on this encounter. The ads are not immune to CC, so using your stuns can be very helpful when repositioning the ads in the fire. Keep an eye out on the blind timer as you're repositioning, as you don't want to get blinded, especially again if you have a Ravager, as threat will jump the next highest target if you're incapacitated. If Execution Sentence is knocking out your Caldoran tank, you can taunt swap when it goes out. A lot of guides just don't recommend it, as your ad tank will probably have ads on them while taunting. See what works best for your raid team. And this last bit of advice goes to the entire raid. You need to understand how important Divine Conflagration is. If you get that debuff, stop everything you're doing and position it in the right spot. You need to pay attention. This mechanic is what is stopping most guilds from progressing or getting kills on Caldoran. It is not that hard of a mechanic, it's just a personal responsibility mechanic, which unfortunately SOD players are not used to. But that's it from me, you guys. Thank you so much for watching these guides. I really hope this guide helps y'all. I want everyone to succeed in Season of Discovery, and I believe most guilds are very capable of killing Caldoran. It's just what I've been stating this whole video. People just don't do the research, and that's the main reason for progression. This fight definitely is the most challenging encounter in all of SOD, but it is not impossible. As always, thanks for stopping by and saying hi. Follow me on twitch.tv/dirtyjd. I appreciate y'all for sticking through all these guides. I know they were very slow, and I apologize. I just wanted to do a full raid boss guide as just a passion project. Just being a teacher and just real life responsibilities get in the way of this. I'm excited to go back to doing some more opinion pieces and talking about the future of Classic WoW, Season of Discovery, Classic Plus, TBC. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Leave a comment down below. This helps. And as always, I will see y'all in the next video.